was talking to Gene Bajlan the other day about changing the intro to a different song. And he was like, no, don't do it. He's like, it's iconic. He's like, I don't think it is. But just because you said that, we're going with that. Good morning to most, good afternoon to others, and good evening to the viewing audience across the pond. I am your host, Jason Miles, here for another episode of This is Revolution Podcast. If you are new to the channel, thank you so much for joining us on what, for me, is a lovely Saturday morning here in Baja. If you're a returning subscriber, listener, or one of our very valued patrons, so glad to have you back. Just to remind you, there's live show news. If you live in the San Francisco Bay Area and want to see us live, well, in April, you'll get your chance. Ben Burgess and I are going to descend upon my area April 17th at El Rio, and we're going to be discussing if Trump is the end of history. I'm looking forward to seeing some familiar faces and hopefully meeting some new ones. The ticket link should be up. I don't remember if I put it in this description, but by the time this show is over, if it's not in the description, it will be in the description. Wherever you are watching or listening to the show, there will be a ticket link in the description. And for whatever reason, if the link doesn't work, please message me. Write a comment. Hey, Jay, the ticket link doesn't work. Because you know what I'll do? I'll make sure it does work. I will find one that works. I want you people there. It's going to be a small, intimate gathering, and I don't think we're going to stream it. I kind of just want, be there. Let's be present. I'm going to hold space for you. All that being said, TIR is a listener-supported labor of love, and we can't do this without y'all. So if you enjoy what we do here on TIR and have the means and feel so inclined, become a patron for as little as $3 a month or $30 for the year. You can not only make sure we stay on the air, but you can access champagne rooms, patron-only call-in shows, and more, like discounts on live events. Oh, that's right. Patrons get a discount on the tickets to the live show. So, something to think about. Now, on to the show. One idea to rule them all. Wherever you are watching or listening to the show later, there are links in the description to get Michelle's book. Today, we're diving deep into the world of media manipulation, corporate influence, and the battle over public opinion with a conversation that I think couldn't be more timely. Our guest is Michelle Stiles, author of One Idea: How Media Shapes Public Opinion in the Age of Corporate Domination. In her book, Michelle meticulously dissects how corporate media consolidates power to control narratives, manufacture consent, and reinforce the status quo. But we're not stopping there. As much as we criticize the legacy media giants, we're also going to challenge a common assumption. Can independent media truly stand as a counterbalance to the corporate behemoth? Are independent platforms operating within the confines of a capitalist system bound to mimic the very structures they aim to disrupt in their quest for market share and relevance? With the rise of digital platforms and a growing distrust of mainstream outlets, independent media has gained traction. But does that necessarily mean it's immune from the pressures of advertising dollars, audience metrics, and algorithm-driven content? Or are these forces creating a new kind of media conformity, albeit under a different banner? We'll unpack this and more, looking at the political economy of media, the role of grassroots journalism, and whether true independence is possible in a system where attention is the ultimate currency. Please welcome my guest. Please give a big TIR. Welcome to Michelle Stiles.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you. Those are great questions, by the way. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that guy's on it. Yeah.
Well,
great conversation.
I do read the books. I sometimes I can't finish them all.
Understood.
But I will get into them. So beyond the introduction.
And you can tell, right? You can tell when somebody digs in, for sure.
Yes. A friend of mine said, that's why I like coming on your show, because you actually read the books. I was like, well, got to stop booking all these goddamn authors. But you start one idea. Every society is governed by a single idea, whether it acknowledges it or not. Could you elaborate on what you mean by this statement? How do you see this one idea shaping global
Well, I don't mean it as a monolith of just like one ideology or a sole idea, but I mean it from a idea syndicate. Okay. And I can't see you, Jason.
Oh, I know, because you're the only person on the screen.
Oh, and so I can't see you?
I mean, if you want to, you can.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. I just don't want to be talking to myself. It seems weird.
Oh no, you're just look. I'm here to ask you a few questions. And
yeah.
The star. You are the star of the show.
Okay. Well, anyways, I want to see you and talk to you. So, anyways, yeah. So the idea syndicate is something that like the corporations at the turn of the century. Obviously, they were monopolizing things like the resources, the public utilities, the railroads, and etc. Right. And what happened in the 1800s was there was this rise of, oh God, we can sell everything, right? We can sell, first of all, we can sell commodities. Now, then we go, wow, we can sell events like the P.T. Barnum and the Wild West, and also the expositions, right? The World's Fair in the 1800s. And God, did that work really good, right? Mm-hmm. Then it moved on to booming the West, right? So these boomers were advertising the West. They were advertising adventure and opportunity, etc. And so you see this this sort of technological competence coming together to be like, we can sell literally anything. We can sell ideas. We can sell a war. So you go down the years, a couple, to 1917, and you've heard of George Creel, of course, right? And how we advertised America, right? So he's just fist pumping that we just sold a war. And that's kind of what got me into looking into this a little bit more deeply and going, okay, there is a whole technology here that was set in place at the 1900s. And we kind of think, many of us are like, well, we're just waking up to this in many cases, maybe 2016 or whatever. It's like, okay, what's happened to society? How did we get here? And so what I really encourage people is to go back in time to study history and see how this thing was put together and who was behind it. Because if you don't have those two pieces, it's like being dropped in quantum physics when you haven't taken a physics class. You're going to be, this is quantum physics in propaganda time right now. You've got all kinds, you've got literally billions, maybe trillions of dollars going to confuse you.
Do you think, though, and I don't disagree with you at all, I can't. I don't think anything you said is false. But going from 1917, Edward Bernays and the Torches of Freedom, which is a big part of the early on in your book, you talk about that. Right. And maybe for those that don't know, we can even explain. Maybe we should explain that. Can you explain who Edward Bernays is and how he really shows kind of the power of what you're talking about with this idea of these torches of freedom and women's suffrage in was it 1920? Yeah,
the 20s. Well, he came out of the he cut his teeth in the publicity in theater publicity.
Yeah,
and then he was conscripted, in the war effort, and he's supposedly a foot soldier, but he was over in Europe, so I think he's a little bit more than that. But that's
Freud's nephew, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, right. So he does have some serious connections. Exactly. He's actually a double nephew, but that gets confusing. Wow. So we don't have to go there. I don't think I can even explain that. But anyways, so he comes out of the war and he goes, oh, what we can do in war, we can do in peacetime. And he goes to the corporations and says, okay, this is how you do it, right? So he creates this little book called Propaganda, interestingly enough. And he's trying to rehab the term because it's got a bad name after coming out of the war, because people are actually really pissed because we put $6.6 million to influencing the forefathers to fight in a war they absolutely did not want to fight in. It was phenomenally successful. I mean, again, if you can go from public opinion over here, highly negative, to everyone being for it, and then realizing, oh my God, after the war, we really got screwed, right? And there was that.
And there's some laws that passed too. The Sedition Act,
Right.
which I think isn't that what Eugene Debs gets locked up under, right?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that, but you might be right. But yes, any opposition. It was the Alien Sedition Act. I think there were two different acts,
Mm-hmm.
And it was to cut down censorship. So that and then there were all these other front groups, essentially, promoting the war as well. So really, only the ideas that they wanted, to be circulating, were the ones that were circulating. Yeah, and there was you were supposed to snitch on your neighbor. They had all that.
That was really, so I didn't know about that.
Snitch patrols.
In reading your book, so you kind of, I know we're all over the place here, and I'm sorry guys if you feel that way, but there's a lot to I hate to say unpack, but discuss here in this book, and I only have Michelle for a limited amount of time. But I didn't know about this. They gave this kind of a speech to influential people. I think we have to go back in time to remember that there was an era before everyone had a telephone in their house.
Yeah. So they would, what they were doing with that is they created the 4-Minute Men, and it was a speakers bureau of thousands of people who were it's co-opting local control. So how do you influence the locals? You take somebody who they trust and put your words in their mouth. So they would be disseminating, these speeches that they were supposed to, kind of just memorize, essentially, and then extemporaneously stand up and give them. One of the main times that they did that is at the movies when they were changing the reels. So they would get up and they would just turn to the audience and then just share supposedly this heartfelt speech, but actually it was talking points from Washington.
You have a quote you have the actual speech in the book, which again, wherever you're watching or listening to the show, there's a link in the description to get the book, which I found fascinating because I'm trying to imagine what life must have been like in this moment in time where information really is person to person, right? Or letter to letter. And to have someone stand up in a movie theater and yell all this stuff out, I would have listened.
Right. I mean, especially when it seems it's not canned. It doesn't look scripted. It looks like just somebody, in the moment, sharing their concerns. And, I think the speech that I reproduced in the book was about, I think the German threat and spies and, on your neighbors, and don't be shy about turning that person in, because
an anti-communist message and socialist message as well, because these are the people that are really protesting the war. They're also working with labor. Labor looks very different. It's not as atomized and broken up. So the fact that you can actually organize a shop floor and have, a different kind of propaganda that might be anti-war propaganda that you're circulating, which definitely was happening at this time. For those that haven't seen the movie Reds, it discusses this era that we're talking about. And to have someone jump up and say, hey, if someone's telling you that they're anti the war, they're a problem because they hate America, and I'm going to tell you why. And in 4 minutes, which is funny because it's still something that we're seeing today. It's just, did I piss the dog off?
Yeah.
Is your dog's name McCarthy? Sorry.
His name's Stinker, actually. And he earned it. He earned any bit of it. So that's him. He'll settle down in a second. Okay. Sorry about that.
But no, there was to me, there was a line there. I was making little notes as I'm reading along. And I thought, I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting, because I think we're still in this moment now. Sometimes when I go into comment sections for videos I have no business watching, I'll see that the first comment is always like, blah, blah, blah is a communist, usually a Democrat. Or the best one I saw was that England was a communist country. I was like, I don't know how you came there, sir.
Yeah. But
a lot of it has
largely, many social influencers function like that speaker now, right? that local speaker, because that's our more of our trust circles. They're expanded, right? They're further distant from us.
So yeah, that whole thing that was interesting, but that all comes out of Bernays. So back to the torches of freedom.
Okay.
From my understanding, Bernays understood this is also an era of like mass, I don't want to say hypnotizing, but it was like mass control through media. So if we want to pass something, I think Philip Morris had hired Bernays to help with their cigarette sales, and he found that there were all these laws, which is crazy to think about. There was a time when women, it was illegal to wear pants and smoke cigarettes, but that was the thing.
Right.
And so he decided to use kind of this suffrage movement and have specific kinds of women that weren't too pretty. I didn't know that he didn't want women that weren't too pretty. I didn't know that.
Average women, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so he can. So he sort of pioneered the idea of stagecraft, which is this idea that experience, which is highly influential for people, right? That's one of the main drivers of how we change our mind on something. We see experiences around us, or we encounter them, or we have them ourselves, and we start to think differently about the world. So, and he said, look, you're going to have, when teaching other public relations people, he said, you're going to have to know what news looks and feels like, so that you can manufacture news. And he called it stagecraft. So he concocted this basically theater play in a way, right? And he's coming out of the theater, and so I think it was the Easter parade, right? And he has the ladies, these debutantes, one of them of which was his secretary and her friends, march in the parade, and of course he had the news already at this pre-designated point where the gals would stop, lift up their skirts, grab cigarettes out of their garters, and smoke torches of freedom. So again, he identified the cigarette smoking as a symbol of suffrage and emancipation, essentially, of women. And so it was a stage play, but the idea to the people was that, wow, there's these women that are clamoring to smoke and be equal to men. And so that influences me, because I think that that's a thing. It's a grassroots happening when it's not. So that's where the stage drama, really, and that's so influential. I mean, it's a huge piece that we have to really understand, because, of course, everything can be so manipulated through even video, even more so now. But, of course, back then it was pretty much just the news.
Somebody wrote in the chat, kind of like how measles are freedom sores. That's funny. I found that, Bernays also goes on to do the whole breakfast thing, as most important meal of the day. I think he got hired by the pork industry, so something about bacon and eggs is and it was never recently. I think it was in the Wall Street Journal. Somebody wrote, and I believe this was an op-ed, the poors can save money by just foregoing breakfast. That's not the exact headline, but I am paraphrasing the headline.
Wow.
Just forego breakfast. And there was a bit of a pushback from, the left, if you will, the liberal community. I'll almost say the liberal community. But I found it interesting because it's like, well, the whole idea around breakfast is made up as far as it being this really important thing to start your day. I grew up with my grandmother who, lived in these times before Bernays. So breakfast for her was always very small. So I understand that there was a time where people didn't feel the need to eat a bunch of pancakes. But I won't go so far as to say the poor don't need to eat.
Right.
But it was interesting framing, because they're also using this whole idea of you were being manipulated into thinking that you needed pancakes. Do you think how can I say this? I hate when people say, wake up, sheeple, because I'm like, I don't know if everybody is sheep like that and being so fooled. And is there negative connotations sometimes to finding out how certain things work? Because now people believe everything is a conspiracy.
I look at it this way. You know, when people think of, one of the biggest, I guess, myths is that we are doing propaganda, you and me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we
Mm-hmm.
have small platforms, and I don't know about you, but I do. We may have more bigger
Mm-hmm.
platform. But again, compared to what you could have through the news or through the major newspapers and whatnot, those are small platforms,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And what we're talking about is, the infiltration really at the 1900s of what it's actually better termed, I think, as mercenary speech.
Oof. Okay.
Okay. Because it's almost like anti-language, right? If I pay somebody to talk, to influence, like these, the 4-Minute Men weren't paid, but they were volunteers. But, nowadays, the PR companies, the corporations, you know, and like in the 1930s, NAM, the National Association of Manufacturers, paid $100 million a year to imprint "corporation equals America equals good."
Mm-hmm.
And post World War II, they spent $1 billion a year.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this marketplace, and they control. Remember, they monopolize the idea syndicate. So you have all this money, all this mercenary speech, I like to call it, through mercenary intermediaries, which can be like social influencers,
Mm-hmm.
the paper editorials.
Mm-hmm.
It can also be politicians, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the end is not changing behavior. It isn't public opinion change so much as that we're going to make money off that public opinion change. Okay, so they're not spending billions just to get us to think one ideology over another, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a financial reason why they're spending, billions of dollars. And so, and that's like literally, and I know you're trying to counter that idea of like, but it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous, right? And even into these, like, I think they look, because they've owned the ideological landscape for so long, right? Because
Sure.
they owned the platforms, right?
No, I think you have a great point in your book. I think you say, I can't remember what year it was. Maybe it was the 30s. There's like 15,000 independent newspaper and maybe radio station owners,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
then by the 50s, that's down to like a
Yeah.
few hundred, and then now I think it's like 6 people own everything. So no, I can't disagree with you that corporate influence. I would even go so far as to say corporate influence has influenced small businessman speak.
Oh,
That
absolutely.
kind of regular, quote unquote, regular person speak is small businessman speak. Like, let's reduce everything down to like different types of people because everything is about exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So, there's 2 types of people, flies or bees, and flies go to shit and the bees want nice things. Like, there's not 2 kinds of people.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
People change as the weather changes. You can't just lock them into one category. But to me, it's that small businessman speak that becomes the dominant
What's
framing of a lot of
free enterprise, right? It's
free,
just
or
like
let's call it free enterprise
free
speak.
enterprise. They were
Yeah.
imprinting. The NAM was the one who created junior achievement, right? And junior achievement is now global, by the way. I had no idea. But this idea that we don't have free enterprise. Let's just put it that way. I mean, that's an absolute myth. Okay, that's a misnomer. We don't have free enterprise. We have monopolistic, predatory corporations. Okay, that once they got, and I want to make your readers aware of this book too. I don't know if you've heard of this, but Business as a System of Power. It probably doesn't come out very good here. Anyway,
It's just the wall. It's another brick in the wall.
it's another brick in the wall.
As Pink Floyd said.
But
yeah.
it was written in 1942, and it was actually commissioned by the Carnegie Foundation. So that's fairly interesting, right? But what they were saying was that once a nation, a quote capitalistic nation, gets monopolies in enough areas, they form cartels. It was called a cartel in Germany. All right, and this was happening simultaneously in all the capitalistic countries, of course, Germany turned fascist, right? But you had England, United States, Italy, Germany, and Japan. He uses for examples, right?
Mhm.
And so when the corporations get the monopolies, then it happens. What do I say? Almost automatically that they'll work together. So the trade association that was formed here in the United States was the National Association of Manufacturers, and that was sort of their policy outlet and propaganda wing, where they were going to get businesses' interests accomplished. Right. In Germany, it's a little bit different. It's the Federation of Business. The FBI is the acronym in Great Britain, interestingly. But this book shows how all these systems were like rising at the same time. And he literally states that you can't have this kind of economic power and have democracy. You can't. It doesn't work. It doesn't coexist. They will subsume the power of the people, for sure.
But we have the internet, and you can do anything on the internet. I'm just teasing.
I know.
Well, because it becomes kind of, you can become doomery if you go too deep down a rabbit hole. It feels like, of these ideas of all speech is controlled opposition, because then people start saying things like us and them in this way that I don't know makes sense. Like, for example, recently, Pete Hegseth, is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Hegseth, I guess.
Hegseth, erased links, hyperlinks on the Arlington Cemetery website for certain females and Black people of any sort of military prestige, and Latinos as well. Just erase the link to their whatever site. And then someone had tweeted that he erased the names of those people in the Arlington site. And then so that got subtweeted and put on all the social media, and people are sharing it, right? And it's not 100% true, but it is true. And I also don't know too many people that are like, go to the Arlington website again so we can get the hyperlink to fucking Colin Powell's website instead of just Googling Colin Powell. But I had friends who were not the most political people sharing this and being angry about it because of his racism. And I'm like, sure, it's petty, it's racist, but were you checking that website to begin with? And is it really about, and well, this is about them trying to separate us. I was like, when in U.S. history have people across class and ethnic boundaries all got together to fight, have a general strike? I don't remember that time, right? So why does someone need to separate us when there's already these maybe natural separations and distractions? Is it really necessary in 2025 to do the same things you were doing in 1917?
Well, I mean, I think so. I mean, divide and conquer. I mean, if we come together,
Sure.
And realize that there's some powers that are too strong for the people to have any say. Now, what's the further extension of that power? I mean, that's where people can disagree. Right now, they're transnational capitalist class. That is a actual term that is getting studied in academia now, right? And so before it was like, oh, there's no real globalist, kind of world government trying to take place, but I think that's pretty obvious, and it really fully accepted now. And so where you think those people are going, I don't think is a good place. And I think we're going to have to unite across the, countries, forget about just racial boundaries, because it is going to be, the little people, the people who don't have much against the holders of wealth, I like to say. And I don't see it going a different way, I mean, and the power is so strong and so ingrained in everything, right? Like, how do you extract yourself from the corporate behemoth, even if you wanted to at this point?
And isn't that the main question, right? And that's why I ask you that question, because this idea of, look, I do think there's propaganda in media, first and foremost. Let me just preface anything I'm going to say by saying that. We definitely see it with coverage of October 7th versus coverage of what's happened post October 7th and what's still happening in Gaza. And I know it's a hot point, and then don't know where you land on that. But there is a reality that we both can't deny, that mainstream media coverage, which was probably up until October 7th, I would say, the dominant narrative, because even alternative media doesn't have the democracy now doesn't have the means to send tons of reporters to the West Bank. They might have a person out there that they talk to, but to actually have on payroll, even all these news stations, they cut their foreign correspondence desks years ago, decades ago. Those things got cut. So what even people in my alternative world get is whatever the mainstream says, and we may be contra to that, but we're still only going off mainstream media stuff. Through social media, through Elon Musk saying, I'm just going to let X go, we're not really going to stop too much stuff that's coming on there, we were seeing in real time these bombings. We were seeing, and I hate to say this, the death of children in real time in a way that we didn't necessarily see fully in Vietnam even. And it's through that you start to see these massive protests in places where they weren't protesting this type of stuff. Colombia's had protests before, but what were they protesting for in the 60s? Colored education. Well, they got it, right? You got your African American studies, you got your Native American studies. If that's really what you wanted, you win, right? You want us to divest from South Africa when everybody was divesting from South Africa? Fine, that place is going down anyway, you win. But when it comes to those students who were going to work for the think tanks and the corporations that would be completing this task of genocide, they all said, no, we've had enough. And they're out protesting because of the images that they're seeing constantly via social media, to the point where even the mainstream news had to acknowledge the fact maybe Israel's going too far. And that, in my lifetime, I'm 47, in my lifetime, it's the first time I've ever seen even Fox have to acknowledge this might be a bit much. Is this idea of dominant controlling narratives coming up against the ubiquity of social media?
Yeah. There's no doubt that, us having the internet and being able to publish gives us a voice that we did not have before, and a little bit further reach. Of course, it still takes money to get reach, and know that. I mean, there's definitely. I mean, something can go viral, but that's not something you can count on, right? To get your message across. And so they're very aware of that, and so I think that actually, and here's the thing, right? So now we're entering, so we're kind of post internet, going into the AI era, right? So now, to me, it looks like the possibility exists for them to muddy and contaminate the waters even more. And this doesn't sound hopeless, but again, real hope starts when illusions end, right? Of what we can really do and what we really are, right? If we think we bought a house and all we have to do is, let's just put a window here and paint the outside. And then we realize, oh my God, the foundation is rotted and this isn't going to work like that, right? So then you got to recalibrate your hope, right? And so we need to understand really what we're up against fully. And that's a hard pill to swallow. So what I hope I'm wrong in anticipating the AI, but I mean, listen, if they want to make counter things of you, a gazillion of them, and smatter them all over the internet saying whatever, that technology already exists, right? And so people are trying to drink from pure stream. They're trying to bend down to the water that's nice and clear, crystal clear, and get truth. And, in a very cheap way, they can be manufacturing a ton of things that can throw us off in the future. So, and it's their platform. It's always been their technology, right? They always own the technology. I have a book here by Kent Cooper, who was the head of Associated Press when they sort of took over for Reuters around around World War II. And he says, the most important monopoly in the world is the ability to tell one nation about another nation. He says it is the most powerful monopoly that there is. And he also says his last chapter is titled, get this, Truth, ... the best propaganda. You gotta love that, right? They just tell you everything, right? So he says it's axiomatic. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but it's axiomatic that the purer the stream, the easier it is to inject a subtle taint in there without anyone knowing. Of course, the Associated Press was billing themselves as, pure and, unbiased news, right? They were pinning Reuters as profit driven and controlled by the nation states that got us all into war, and then the AP was going to be a nonprofit. Of course, it was a corporation that was controlled just like the other corporations, really. But so those are our news gatherers. And to your point earlier, which you said, geez, where do we get the money to really find out about, or the organization to find out accurately what's going on in these other nations so that we can make decisions based on that? It's a profound problem, right? We've got monopolization of the news gathering. We've got monopolization of the distribution of media, right? And we have a platform that is essentially theirs, and we see how that can get corrupted, right? Through different censorship things, or
it's insane. It's insane. I'll be completely transparent. I haven't gotten paid from YouTube in 5 months.
Wow.
10 to 30% of my income comes from YouTube, and I haven't gotten it. I had an issue. It got cleared up, and there's no customer service.
Yeah, right. It's AI.
It's all AI. Nothing I can do about it. I just have to sit and wait and twiddle my thumbs. They can wait me out, and there's literally nothing I can do about it. That's the easiest way if you want to silence someone. You're like, I'm just take away your means extremely legally and within policy, and you'll never figure out who or how or what to contact, because we won't tell you, and we don't have to.
Right.
Have fun with that one.
Right. So, it is horribly depressing when you look at it, right?
Yeah.
You go, wow. And yet, here I am, here you are. We're still doing the things that we feel called to do, right? If you're prophetic, you see sort of prophetically, you see things, and you have to warn the people. And there's a reason why I come from a Christian background, but there's sheep and hireling, right? If you're using mercenary speech, you're a hireling, right? Mm-hmm. You're moving people, you're moving the sheep for money. Okay, you're a mercenary intermediary, and and there are very few of us out there who are just we're not making a ton of money in this. I'm probably losing money doing what I'm doing, but we have to wake up to the trouble that we're in, I think, in a very real way, and cross boundaries. I mean, we may have never done it before. Like you say, well, we've really always been siloed. I have a different perspective. I've been in, my background is a physical therapist, and I've been in hundreds of African-American homes, hundreds of Hispanic homes, which is a much more intimate setting, than treating them in a facility,
Yeah.
and, and I have good Black friends, and, so it's, we all want the same thing. We want our kids to grow up and have decent jobs. We want to have, safety for our families. We want to have clean water, decent food. We don't want to,
I agree. I think everybody wants the same thing. I do think there's class distinctions within ethnic groups where you might have different needs and wants, right? And most uprisings start from the bottom up. And there's been two moments in the United States history, maybe three, right? We have emancipation. That's a major moment. We have the New Deal, massive moment. And we have civil rights. Granted, all those things happen because of to a certain degree, cross class, and of course, cross racial lines. None of that stuff can happen unless we cross those gender lines. Like, all that stuff has to happen. Did you lose me?
Yeah, just for a second. Yeah.
Sorry. Internet in Mexico.
Okay.
Maybe I spoke too much to YouTube. And they're like, silence him now. But there is you're right, this cross collaboration, but an idea that everyone is together is where I think that notion is false. Like, I don't think not everyone was on board for civil rights. Not everyone was on board for emancipation. Right?
Yeah, no, I'm not. I would totally agree with you. I don't mean to say that everyone was on board. I mean, in fact, a very small percentage of people will ever be for any new thing coming down the road. The larger percentage will Tolstoy called it like the ballast of a ship, right? That the majority of the public opinion will stay. It will be ballast. So you think ballast is kind of counterintuitive. It's weighting the ship down, and you don't want to do, but you don't want to go here and there and there, willy-nilly. A society has to stay quite stable for most people to feel comfortable, and it's until the public opinion, until a small percentage, a minority, just like you're saying, shakes things up enough and triggers, like a lot of those things were experienced, seeing the protesters at Selma get the water guns, right? Yeah. Trained on them. And that moment in time, you know what I mean, where it was like, that's just wrong, right? And so many people saw that. And that was that experience that, brought a few more people together, and maybe enough to tip over that scale, right? We
as a society, there were people in this world, and there's a lot of other factors that go into it too, right? There's a counter hegemon in the Soviet Union that's pointing its finger going, we'll let these Negroes come here and learn for free. there's the fact that there's young people that have the ability to go, I'm going to quit going to school for a year or two. I'm going to drive down to Mississippi or Selma, Alabama, to make sure these people vote or have the ability to vote, because I want to live in a better world.
Yeah.
There were things at play that enabled people to be able to have those freedoms. Education was inexpensive at the time, or free. And you could do that. Those days are gone. The people that were the lawyers for Fred Hampton and the SDS could pass the bar and go, let's go to Chicago, because that's where everything's happening if we want to change the world. And that's what they wanted to do. I do agree with someone like Anand Giridharadas, who writes the book Winners Take All, that there's been a massive change. And a lot of that has to do with policy, especially education policy, making it so expensive, where to change the world is not to involve yourself in politics. It's not to form an organization like the Panthers. It's to make a lot of money and then do it philanthropically. I don't say this with any sort of joy. I say this very sadly with a sober tongue. And that's these are all, you know, you don't need the media anymore the same way you did before. I think the media is still extremely important when it comes to changing perceptions. But when we see the ability of people to go, I'm going to drop out of college to go help this cause, who can afford to do that in 2025?
Yeah. And yeah, that is right. Because, you know, so that's where having some resilience, right. To be able to manage, you know, people need to, you know, I mean, you know, we need to cut back on our expansive living spaces, you know what I mean, in a way so that, you know what I mean, so that we have capacity to absorb more, you know, because we don't have any capacity. So if something, a crisis happens, we aren't even half as resilient as our forefathers, you know, 100 years ago, who lived on the land and knew how to do stuff, you know. So we're so at mercy, you know, so at the mercy of, rather, you know, a crisis, you know, random crises. So, you know, but you know, we're really going to need each other. But we have to stand up for truth. We have to, you know, continue to name things, to call them by name, what they are. You know, Veblen changed. You know, corporations were not intended to be widespread entities. Thomas Hobbes in Leviathan said that the corporation, in a sovereign state, was like worms in the bowels of a human. Okay, in the sovereign, it couldn't coexist. You know, multiple corporations existing under one sovereign state would you know, destroy it. And that's really what we have. So these things were meant to be short term. They were meant to be for the public good. They could have them revoked at any time. And that's the way it was in the early 1800s. There weren't many. And eventually the restraints came loose. And these things are so big, it's like flying in a vehicle where I'm completely impenetrable to anything, any harm. Like I can be the dirtiest scumbag of the universe and fly in this vehicle, you know, crash it into, you know, wherever I want, destroy resources, destroy people, whatever. And like, I have no responsibility. Like, it's a business model. You know, fraud is a business model in big pharma, right? And nothing happens to the people driving the entity, right? And so, you know, Thurston Veblen called it a absentee ownership, right? It's like a speculative instrument bolted on to an industry and some institution in society. Like, I'm coming from healthcare, right? Yeah. And so I've seen the corporate buyout of medicine. Disastrous. So even though the name stays the same on there, it's completely, as my friend from, she's a nurse, she says, Florence Nightingale has left the building. Okay. She's not there anymore. Right. And so, and I like to joke about rehab being, the real name for that is warehousing old people for money. That's where it is now. Okay. That's the name. That's what should be the name on the top of the building. It's not rehab because they keep people in beds for 6 weeks. They prefer to put a catheter in because they specifically understaff so that they can't be toileting people. Right. And to get them in and out of bed takes staff. And so, you know, you get a 90-year-old who's fallen and broken their hip and they basically stay in bed except when they have therapy. They're going to get worse in 6 weeks. They're not getting better. Okay. So actually the system is set up not to do the things that it says. So it's completely been cannibalized. In other words, we're seeing that. And down here in Tucson, people like that's across, you know, races across. I mean, like if I say, wow, medicine's changed, they're like, oh my God. Yeah. I mean, you can't get a hold of anybody. It's going to be AI. It's, you know, and so it's been taken over simply for the profit motive. And when that happens, when it gets bolted on top like that, it just sucks the entity, the life out of what it was intended to be, which was healing for the sick.
Well, back to your original point.
What was that?
Well, media propaganda. In 2016, I forgot to send this to you.
because I am a bit of a jerk. I forgot to send it to you. I'm doing a documentary series on the way we consume media called Kayfabe. And episode 1 is out now, available on Means TV. But I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you when this is over. There's this moment in 2016 where I think Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump play these really interesting, almost pro wrestling like roles.
I use that term all the time.
It is. Well, like kayfabe, right? Is the wrestling vaudevillian term for, don't let people in on the joke. And I don't think that their strings are being pulled by actors, so to speak. I think there's something authentic about the way they talk and act and believe. But there's this moment where they're both kind of breaking a fourth wall of politics, where they're talking about, what really doesn't work. Donald Trump, when he goes, well, I understand I'm going to drain the swamp because I paid the people in the swamp. And Bernie Sanders is calling out, corporate greed. And he's calling out what you're talking about with medicine. And he's gaining a lot of ground with this idea that everybody needs to have socialized medicine in the United States. It's an extremely popular slogan. There's shows in this left media world that came up during that Medicare for all hashtag moment, but it's gone. And I think it's gone because of what you're talking about when it comes to the way news handles it. Bernie Sanders didn't get a third, an eighth, a 20th of the coverage that Donald Trump got because he's just good for TV. I think Sanders is good for TV. They're kind of opposite sides of a coin, if you will. They both have those New York accents. One's from Queens, one's from Brooklyn. So your ethnic stereotypes, they play it out for you in spades. They're older, so you'll listen to them in a way you might not if they were younger people saying the same things. And there's proof in the things that they say. We know Donald Trump is kind of a horrible man, so when he says he's paid politicians, you believe him because he's a horrible man. Bernie Sanders marched with Dr. King, so you believe him when he says these things are unjust. It's an interesting world in which these guys are existing in. One got all the media attention, and the other pretty much existed only in alternative spaces.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, they manipulate both sides, I think, profoundly. They want us echoing. I mean, I think of the news media as tribal elders, right? So if you have a community, what do tribal elders do? Okay, they identify, well, first of all, they set a vision for the future of the community, right? But they also identify problems, and then they have to respond to threats and crises, right? Mm-hmm. And I call the news treasonous tribal elders because they're constantly, kind of misconflating the problems, right? We have been like, here's an enemy here, go sheep. Here's an enemy there, go sheep. And, or this is the problem, or maybe, they get the correct problem, but they get the wrong solution, right? So there's all kinds of, sophistry in terms of, okay, identify the problem correctly, identify the cause and the solution. And they're always conflating those. Round and round we go. I mean, that's their job, is to not pin the tail on the donkey in a sense, for like who are real enemies and what we need to address. Okay. So they're always, like they rehabbed the image. They did corporations did a 3-prong rehab. So they transformed the robber barons, which they were really thought of as the robber barons, to the captains of industry. Right?
Are we still there?
Yeah. We're still there, right? And then they had to they did. Bruce Barton was responsible for really starting up the public relations for corporate image, creating a corporate soul. He says that's what they were doing. Okay, because people hated the corporation so much, they knew that they were dangerous, and they were these behemoths that no one would be able to fight against, right? Try to take a lawsuit against a corporation, you can't, right? You have too much money. So, but anyways, that's where Veblen, called them an absentee ownership, and again, then labeling it free enterprise. It's no longer free enterprise. There's no, they once they got a certain power, they eclipsed competition.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did with the regulatory agencies,
Mm-hmm.
So they, you have numerous ways where they just rehab the image, and the media is part of that, right? So the people go, oh, if we name it wrong, like there's a part in my book where I talk about words encompassing reality. And it's hugely important, because how we name something, again, propaganda is a really bad word because it's so vague, and people think lies and misinformation.
Yeah.
Right. But they don't think, we don't really have a name for the whole structure that's being, because again, Gustave Le Bon says it's trust. We're not using facts and reason. Okay, we're using trusts, and that's where that infrastructure of belief. Who are the authorities you trust? That's who I'm going to get through to you with. Okay, your experiences. Okay, the social pressure. Those are things that you trust those things, because you look around, you go, well, what's most people saying? This goes back to the emperor has no clothes. Most people do not want to stand out. No one would say, hey, you have no clothes, because they didn't want to be considered unfit and an idiot, which is what they said, would happen if they would identify that. So people, and we just know that sheep want to just basically fit in for the most part. So all these things are things that we kind of are shortcuts for coming to believe, but they're the trusts. So the left is not influenced by the right. Okay, and the right is not influenced by the left. They get and they get their media through both sides. Okay, and so and Creel said this in his book. He's he's doing his victory lap. He's laughing, and he says, in the exact magazine that this man is reading, that the Creel Committee is an iniquity of the devil. Okay, that's what they called the Committee on Public Information, the Creel Committee. In the exact magazine that he's reading that, he's getting my stuff. Right? So he's basically saying back then, and he says, and his kids bringing it home in the school, and he's reading in the newspaper, and he's seeing it on the billboards, and he's, so, he's saying that in that sense, they're owning both sides. And so that's where, we have to get out of the left-right dichotomy and realize that, we have lots of commonalities with the other side, even though they're constantly trying to make it seem like, and giving us bad leaders. You know what I mean? Like the worst leaders we get, they smear the message on both sides.
Well, what happens though when villain is no longer a bad word? I'll add that by saying, because again, Donald Trump walked literally off of a reality show TV set as a bad guy. He left pro wrestling as a bad guy. He wasn't always a bad guy, per his media perception, but he does kind of, I don't want to say blow up, but really gets into the public imagination and even the lexicon, right? You fired. Now it's a tariff. It's the same thing. As a bad guy, and walks into the Oval Office as an anti-hero.
Yeah, I mean,
to some, not everybody, right?
And people cheering it on, right?
And you could say the same thing with Elon Musk, right? These are people that, when you talk about robber barons, that's a word that's come back. Captains of industry. I don't know if we call them that anymore, because we all understand, and you say this in your book to a certain extent, politicians lie, big business lies. We understand everyone's lying. But what happens when you create an ecosystem? And I think this is beyond just news. This goes into like media, like movies. And for me, the 80s was a time where a lot of bad actors got their reputations laundered through their presentation in film, even if they came off a little scummy, because we're also coming off an era in the 70s where all these movies by these auteurs were about kind of scummy people. So it's okay to look at The Godfather, where there really is no good guys in that movie. Everybody's kind of a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to follow the Corleone story, even though it's built on shaking down poor people. You don't really give a fuck because you care about these rich guys. That doesn't change to me in a movie like Wall Street, where it's about deregulation. But there's heroes. Wolf of Wall Street. Again, who's the good guy in that? The cops? Like who are the good guys in these movies? And these are the people now that we see in positions of power in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
And Donald Trump is kind of the avatar of this horrible person that we've been cheering on from the 70s to now. So what happens when maybe we want to be the villain?
Or just want to be rich, you know what I mean? That idea that,
Sure.
you know what I mean? It's still a possibility for us. And so we cheer on the rich man because we think we still can play that game with them. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I had a patient, Navajo Indian, speaks 5 languages. And I had mentioned to him a story about another tribal person. They were stopping speaking their tribal language, the Pasquayakis, and they were driven out of Mexico for their gold. And I thought, wow, that's really awful. And you're going to actually lose what it means to be an Indian. How do you perceive the world? And I was talking to this Navajo man, and he said, oh my God, yes. He said, in fact, he goes, he goes, you know what we call the white man? He goes, the backward people, because they love the good, you know, they call it good bad and bad good. You know, and pretty profound, really. And so that's actually just enculturated in the language and how they speak about the world. And, you know, of course, because they never owned property, right? That's just crazy to them. And so anyways, I think you're right. The media is absolutely attempting to turn things upside down, right? In more ways than that. You know, I would say that the gender thing has something to do with that as well. I mean, you know, I don't know where you stand on that, but
on women being evil, I've been divorced twice.
But anyways, yeah. So you know, we have to name things correctly. We have to work in our communities to start calling things what they really are and not using their terms, right? And realizing that even though, like, you know, again, with this Trump thing, you know, there are parts of the right that are important because right and left are like stability and chaos. You know, they're yin and yang. And they, you know, Jordan Peterson's stuff, I think, is pretty accurate that way. His old maps of meaning. I don't know if you've read any of that stuff.
Sadly, I've cleaned my room. Yes.
I know he's gone a little crazy in Gaza and in Israel. I'm with you. Okay. I'm with you there. But he did have some important things to say, I think. And, but yeah, that order and chaos, and you can't, you know, there's an intermingling of both. And so the one side, you know, the conservative side tends to, or the right tends to stay in the traditions and stability, where the left, you know, kind of pushes into newer areas and, you know, it's typically been anti-war and, you know, pro-labor and,
you know, let women wear pants. I'm just messing with you.
So yeah, I mean, so those things, but you know, when you put a bad leader purposefully, I might add, you know, either side, what you're doing is you tarnish any message that they had that was even remotely valid, so that we can't even talk to each other anymore. You know what I mean? Because we have such, you know what I mean, like blithering idiots in all spectrums of the, you know, the political race, right? And so. You know, again, this probably hasn't been an incredibly hopeful dialogue.
You know, I didn't know where we were going to go with this as I was reading the book. You know, again, as I said, I was taking notes, and this is work I've spent the last 3 years doing in a similar arena with the kayfabe documentary. So, you know, the things that you're referencing are definitely things I reference. I reference a few different things, but it doesn't mean that
Yeah.
one is. I think they work together with each
Together.
other. So if you're going to watch kayfabe, definitely read Michelle's book. I think it's an important read to understand news media and how it functions. And then wherever you're watching or listening, there's a link in the description. I know I don't have you very long. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me today, Michelle.
Thank
When
you.
would you be willing to come back on the show? If we
Totally.
Okay.
Totally. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Well, thank you. High five. Well, thank you very much. Her name is Michelle Stiles. And what else are you working on?
Well, one of the things is I do have a study guide with that book, and one of my intentions were to, because again, this isn't something somebody else really teaches your kids, but they grow up with a cell phone in their hand, right?
Yeah.
And they're being exposed to this stuff all the time. It's like, a virus coming outside your community, which can inject anything into their minds. So, sitting down with them, and there's 12 chapters, and there's lots of discussion questions, and they bring up, like, okay, if, do we really have free speech, right? This question is really important, because if there's all this paid mercenary speech, yes, we can talk freely, but we have no means of reaching anybody and changing any public opinion. I mean, in a big way, right? Because you need tons of money to do that. And so, you've gone, well, and then can a democracy actually exist in a place where there's mostly paid speech and the regular guy can't get their voice heard? So, and those are discussions you can have with your kids, and sit down and have them read different, and have different articles that I link to in the book. And so I think that's a really, really, because, maybe just use your documentary too, right? With that, and have those discussions so that they can start realizing that it's a betrayal. It's coming through your trusts. And so the very things that you think you're getting, you have to be able to look at them from a different way. Okay. Because they just don't lie to you. Mm-hmm. In many cases we're too smart for that. And they're going to gain our trust, like that local guy that they got to stand up at the show. Okay. Remember that.
We got to go back to street corner preachers.
Yeah. I mean, in some cases we're going to have to be the message, be the messengers.
Well, you are a messenger, Michelle. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me. And wherever you guys are watching or listening, there's a link in the description. Check out Michelle's book. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Have a great rest of your day. Michelle Stiles. I'm Jason Miles. Our names rhyme. This is the Saturday free show. And usually I would turn everything off and try to go eat, but I don't have any money. Or food. So there's that. Toussaint messaged me early this morning for no good reason. But people know I wake up at an ungodly hour. So if they're up at an ungodly hour, my phone goes off. It happens. It happens. Bert Cooper and I have been having a very long conversation because he woke up early in the morning as well, but he is an early morning man, as I am myself. Toussaint sent me what I found a sad message. And I'm looking over here at the chat to see what you guys have to say. But the Balloon Pop show just got picked up by Netflix. That show was black fucking excellence. And you know what's going to happen? Netflix is going to have it. They're not going to keep it this fucking chocolatey paradise of joy for me. You know it's not going to be that way. It's over. It's going to be a multi-ethnic hodgepodge of fuckery. And I'm not happy about it at all. At all. Apparently that show had over 100 million views on YouTube. And Netflix was like, we're going to buy it. Here's a bunch of money. And you know it was a bunch of money because I do follow. Tucson goes, you actually follow the woman on that show? I was like, hell yeah, I follow the woman on that show. My goodness. Fine as hell. Timothy says Jason's a black nationalist. Sometimes. Not when the Hebrew Israelites are yelling at me, but sometimes. This is one of those times. But the woman, Arlette, she's got a black ass name. Whatever her name is, the host lady. She just posted the link that said they got the Netflix deal and just wrote, God is good. You know when a motherfucker says that, they got paid. You'd be surprised how many people love the crack. Right? If you ever see me subtweet something, God is good, just know I got some money. Or the fucking colonoscopy came back negative. That's it. This is the only time God is good. Oh, what happened? Pregnancy test was negative. God is good. They dropped the charges. God is good. That's the only time I'm going to say that. That's it. Is that bad? Maybe. I don't know. But I saw that and I was like, oh man, this horrible show is going to get even more horrible. When you watch that show, as much as I do, I've watched it far too many times. It's interesting to see how people interact in this pseudo speed dating situation, which is kind of what it is, right? It's a mix of speed dating and the dating game. And I don't think that those people went into it with a big drawn out thing and a map of where they wanted to. I just think they're like, hey, I got an idea. What if we gave people balloons? And if they didn't like someone, they just popped it. It's funny. It's cost effective. It's hilarious. I love it. Everything about the show I love. We don't have to do their fucking makeup. We don't have to do shit. We just need halfway decent lighting and balloons. We can get a big bag of balloons from Amazon for like $5 and then toothpicks. Production costs on this for the decade are probably $15. Done and done. Paint a room white. No one knows how shitty it looks. No, walk on a set. It's horrible. There's tape everywhere. Shit's falling. You're like, oh, that's dirty? Yeah. They don't look all that dope up close. Don't have to. It's just what the camera sees. That's an extremely simple set. Genius. Have the host wear a series of dresses from Shein. Okay. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Fucking genius. And then, people are comfortable with interviewing each other as a date. And it made me ask myself this question as I get older. And love seems like a mountain that is too high for me to climb. as I become much more comfortable with, living alone. I live alone. Dig it. But I got to know people that I was in long-term relationships with over a period of time. My first wife, I got married really young, and I don't think anyone should do that. And my kids learned from me, and they're like, "We're not going to do. You're dumb. You and mom are stupid." But we both worked at the same mall that no longer exists, Hilltop Mall, and I would walk by her job and like wave. And she was like, who's that retard over there? Why does he keep waving? Eventually we went out, and then, a few years later, there's a kid and marriage and all that stuff. But it wasn't an interview process. There wasn't a list of wants that I had that she had to, there was a checklist. I had like 2 things on a checklist when I met her, which was like, she's really pretty. She's really pretty, and when she smiles, it makes me feel pretty. That was like the extent of my dating checklist at like 19 years old. So we just got to know each other. And there's a lot we had in common when we were younger. We had a lot of fun when we were kids. When I watch these shows, I'm like, man, they say shit to each other in these shows. Like, I just want to be upfront. I'm dating with intention. And if you're not dating with intention, a pop, I'm like, whoa, what does that mean? That this date is one step closer to marriage? Get to know her first. Maybe fuck her a few times. Jesus Christ. Jesus. You don't know shit about this woman. She could be the worst person ever. Ever. She could be a toothpaste in the sink, streak mark in the bowl ass motherfucker. You won't know. You don't know that yet. Chill out on dating with intention. Jesus. Polygraph lie detector says, now that we've met, let me get that ring size. Right? That would scare the shit out of me if I was a woman and I met, this guy's cool. He's attractive. He's nice. He's like, he's got a lot of things going for him. Got that fucking hairspray hairline thing. All right. He's like, I'm dating with intention. Whoa. Bitch, I just met you. This is coffee here. We can't make these life decisions over coffee. I don't even know how you like your coffee. Chill the fuck out. Damn. Del Sol Verde says, you need to make 6 figures first of all. Really? Because if that's the case, I'm out. I'm way out. And that could be a problem. Could be why I'm still single. I don't have 6 figures. And if you fucking me, don't think you fucking some crazy potential, because there's just not a lot of money in left media, in writing. It's just not there. It's not like one day I'm gonna write something that everybody and nope. You be hearing there's this thing I'm supposed to be writing with Teray. I'm not going to get too into it because we can't talk about it right now, but we're writing it. And he told me the amount of the advance, because we're going to be critiquing this book. where basically this black person said, I think it's Brown v. Board was a bad, no, can't remember the court decision, but basically integration fucked up Negroes for a long time. And we're going to be challenging that notion. But she got to write that book. I think she got like $500,000 advance or some shit like that. Some crazy number. If you think 0 books advanced Ben Burgess to write Give Them an Argument more than like $25 and a pack of Cools. Like, nah, man. There's just there's no money in this at all. What are you saying here? I'm trying to read what you got. In part, it's social media has crazy expectations. In part, it's hard to live up to expectations that society's made out or reach for many. Yeah. I mean, I'm also down just to get to know people. Is that a bad thing? Is that crazy nowadays? Like, hey, let's just see where this goes. I'm not trying to fuck the world, but let's just hang out and maybe you don't like me. I don't know. Sometimes I'm not likable. That's fine. But no, it's like, is that done? Is that a dead scene now? Damn, now y'all talking shit about being smoking cigarettes. Oh. I'm reading the comments of what you guys are saying about Ben not smoking and drinking, and this is the funniest shit in the world to me. And I hope he's watching and reading these comments, cracking the fuck up, because they're pretty fucking hilarious. But yeah, I don't. Dating is just such a. Maybe I'm just not good at it. Especially now. I think you get worse as you get older. You would think you'd be more experienced. You know how to talk to people better. The times are just very different. And the interview model, I'm not good at. I do not do well on interviews. It's almost like how you apply for a job and they make you take like the personality test where they ask you these ridiculous questions about like stealing and catching someone's like stupid shit like that. Like, do you think taking paper clips is stealing? I don't know. No. Why does it matter? You didn't hire me to be the fucking paperclip monitor. You hired me to fucking fold jeans at the Gap. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here for fucking post-it notes and paper clips. Spencer. Not Spencer Leonard, but the anonymous Spencer. That would be the district manager of the Gap. But I'm not good at those. And that's what it feels like dating is like. It's like a series of those kinds of tests. And once you answer the wrong thing, then it's over. It's like, oh, you said X. And the last guy I was with that broke my heart, they were that person. So that means you're that person. It's like, well, we only kind of hung out one day and I haven't had a chance to do any of the things that you said the other guy did. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You failed. NB1 says, is anyone good at those tests? Yes, my younger brother was. My younger brother, Joel, the white one, was very good. And he would take them for me. True story. I think he's coming to the San Francisco show so you guys can meet him. And you can ask him and he will laugh at you and be like, yes, I have done that for Jason. Dusty says, just get in the mind of a snitch and answer all the questions like that. I'm not good. at those kinds of questions. And then again, the older you get to, everyone's dealing with a certain level of trauma. I'm dealing with a certain level of trauma. Right? I have my own things where I go, ooh, you did that. I am out of here. Ben was literally making fun of me about this the other day. Are you guys the same way? I feel like you guys are probably the same way. I was having this conversation with the two. Timothy says Jason needs to sell beats to the next generation so God can be good to him. God is good. I wish. That would be awesome if something I did blew up. I'd be so happy. But I think this intro song actually has blown up in a way that I never thought anything I would do would blow up. That the amount of views and plays that song has gotten, it trips me out. Like I was talking with another friend from Bitter Lake, the band that I did all that music with, and I was like, it's got over 1 million. That's crazy, right? But I want to play this. This is a comedian who I've had similar situations to this woman, and I felt her pain. She's younger. I think she's younger than me, but this is adult pain. 10 ways to tell your date's a narcissist. I think everyone being a narcissist is a big fucking problem in dating, because sometimes people really do date narcissists. And if you look in the mirror too long and like, oh, I didn't know you were a narcissist. I thought I saw a booger and I just didn't want to go out with you to your Christmas party with a bat in the cave. Sorry, Helen. I had a booger. Not a goddamn narcissist. That's what the last guy said. Fuck Helen. Bad Lefty says, not Helen. Yes, Helen. She's fucking everything up. Okay, now I found the video. Yes, Dr. Claw. Bat in the cave is a metaphor for there's a booger. Or another friend said you got a flapper. You know, sometimes the weather's dry. A little flapper. So a friend told me, a friend was like, oh, Jay, you got a bat in the cave. That's a very polite way to say booger. It's a good friend. You know what a bad friend does? Let you talk to somebody with that fucking booger flapping around. That's the worst friend in the world. If your friend doesn't tell you, hey, got a flapper, and hands you a fucking tissue, it's a really good friend. Because also, you don't just tell someone they have a booger and then walk away. You fucking hand them a tissue. It's friendship. Okay, watch this. Let's watch this together. I think this woman is fucking hilarious. Okay, is it on the screen? Oh, okay, here it is.
Work, and he had to drop something off at my apartment. So we're standing in my apartment.
So sorry, I think I cut it off. So there's a guy from her job, and he had to drop something off at her apartment for work. I don't know what the fuck this chick does. But anyway, and so that's where it starts.
We're kind of making awkward small talk. And as we're talking, I just have this thought. I was like, I want this man in my apartment again. He matches my wallpaper. So develop a little crush. A week later, I text him. I go, hey, man, I'm on the road right now, but when I get home, would you like to get coffee? He's like, I would love that. So I don't know anything about this man. I don't know anything about his status. But until we get more information, we're going to consider this a soft date. 2 days before this coffee date, he texts me. He goes, hey, I'm going to a party tonight. Do you want to come? Oh, this is so exciting, right? He can't wait to get coffee. This is such a great sign. But just so we're all on the same page, no, I don't want to go to this party at all. It's my only night off this week. I don't want to put on pants. I don't want to put on makeup. I don't want to leave my apartment. And I definitely don't want to go to a party. I'm almost 40. Who goes to parties? Gross. But I want this man to know I'm interested. So I put on pants. I put on makeup. I leave my apartment and I go to this party. We hang out all night. I only drink water. I bring up cats too much. He doesn't leave. It's going great. At the end of the night, I go, hey man, do you want to walk me home? He goes, happy to. We start walking towards my apartment. We're like 3 blocks from my place. He turns to me and he goes, hey, I don't want to be presumptuous, but I should probably let you know I just started seeing someone. And I went, okay, I respect that. And I appreciate you telling me. And then he goes, but I really like you. And I was like, so what? Are you going to put me on a waiting list? You're going to give me one of those restaurant buzzers and it's going to go off when things don't work out with this woman? Like, what the would you tell me that? That's unnecessary information now, right? That'd be like if I went to a restaurant and I tried to order the steak and the waiter was like, hey, I'm so sorry. We ran out of the steak, but just to let you know, it's the best thing on the menu. That's unnecessary information. Worst part about it, the next day he texted me. He goes, hey, I had a really good time with you last night. I hope you didn't feel like it was a waste of your time. It was absolutely a waste of my motherfucker. Dude, I'm not 22 years old. I don't have hope. Come on, man. I don't know a bunch of trivia about a man I'm never going to and I put on pants for you. I hope he dies.
That was brilliant. I loved every moment of that. And I think that woman's kind of hot. She's got some ass than you think. Anyway, that was fucking hilarious. I've been in that woman's situation before where you're like, why did you bother to talk to me if this is why would you do that? Like, well, I don't need friends like that. I have a bunch of friends like that. I'm not trying to make fucking new ones. Especially with vaginas. Just not. So I sent that to a group chat with Alex Herbert and Cynthia. I forget Cynthia's last name. That will be back in a few weeks to do part 2 of the Love on the Left show. And yeah, Charles says she'll be in San Diego April 29th. Yeah, I would totally be a fucking dude she bangs and tells a joke about later. So I fucked this black guy that says he lives in Mexico. And yeah, then the joke stops. She just stares deeply and goes, yep. He hit the bottom of everything. Hopefully she's watching this. And I sent that, and so then there was this massive conversation that started way too late at night, especially for those two because they live on the East Coast, about assumptions of the man. And Alex was trying to defend the man, and Cynthia was, and I just was like, this man is a piece of shit. If you have a girlfriend and you know you are talking to someone seriously, whether or not you think the chick at work is hot, you can't pursue that. You can't go on an off-site coffee date with that person. You knew that from jump. Right? Am I lying here? You knew that shit from jump. And then you're going to be like, oh, no. We're just friends. It's cool. It's totally cool. It's totally cool. Bullshit. That's some Damien-ass behavior. That is a Damien 101 move. He's trying to see if you are a better situation than the woman he's with now. Damien is predator. And he's always on the hunt for who has better credit, better apartment, car. Damien cares not about pussy. It's like this much of the goal. What can he get from you? It's Damien shit. Anyone named Damien does that. I don't give a fuck what color y'all are, what generation you come from. If your name is Damien, there's a good chance that you do shit like that. It's a really good chance. There's a handful of names. Bryce is another name. If your name is Aiden, you definitely do shit like this. We're going to stick with Damien for all intents and purposes, right? If you've watched TIR, if you've been in the champagne room, then you know we have these names for people. And Damien behavior is, oh, I'm kind of with somebody, but let's just go on a coffee date. Because she doesn't know. She doesn't know you. And then before the coffee date, you're like, oh, like, why would you even hit the chick up? If you're with a chick, why would you hit a chick up that you're not supposed to fucking do this with, right? You're doing this. Here, you hear it? Hear it on the microphone for the audio only listeners. I'm going to keep miming this because I think it's funny. We need to bring it back. But seriously, if there's someone you're with, you don't, hey, I'm going to a party, someone I'm with. Oh, have fun. Wow. You don't want to come with them to the party? It's not like a weird dudes only party where they're going to like do a fucking ceremonial circle jerk. It's a party where you can go to it as well. But he didn't want to take you because he wanted to take the other chick because she's probably hotter. There's something about that fucking modern day Rosie the Riveter fucking comedian chick. She's cute. She has some ass. So you go to the party. You get not to her house. Because this is experienced Damien behavior. Young Damien behavior is you go through the whole process, you go back to her place, you do it, and then after you're done, you're like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm seeing somebody. No. Experienced Damien behavior is 3 blocks from the house. You go, oh, I don't want to be presumptuous. Bitch, you knew what it was, Damien. But I'm kind of seeing somebody right now. Because you're waiting to see if she goes, oh, that's cool. Huh. Well, it's just going to go back to my apartment. Maybe we could just like hang out, watch a movie or something. And that's when Damien goes, I love movies. Right? That's some Damien shit. She was smart enough to know night ends here. I know where this is. I know what you want. You're going to tell me this shit beforehand. Go back to my place. You know, fucking knock the bottom out. And then you hit me with the girlfriend shit. So then you can call me crazy. No. I know where this is going, Damien. And it stops here. That's how I saw it. Do you guys agree that that is what was happening with this situation? Because you would net, if I'm seeing somebody, even if I'm just starting to see somebody, I can't go to the next hot person that happens to find me mildly attractive and be like, oh, maybe I can keep juggling these bitches. No. Sounds like a fucking nightmare. I have like 5 seconds of free time.
And I ain't hiding my phone for shit. Don't have the time. Everything is linked in my fucking house. Right? I'm one of those a-holes that if one text message goes off, the computer dings, the iPad dings, the other computer in the other room dings, the phone dings. I'm not trying to change all that shit to juggle chicks. It doesn't seem fun for anyone. I'm not Damien. Lady Braga says everyone needs to have Jay on a headphone when on a date, taking cues. Yeah, because I'll tell you who the Damiens are. Oh, don't do that. That's Damien behavior. Uh-oh. I smell hot Cheetos. Leave now. Just leave. But I haven't. Just leave. But the dinner has. Just leave. Hot Cheetos. You don't want it. That's what I'm here for. That's the only thing I can do for you at this point. Tell you what not to do, because I've been on both sides of the equation. You know, I've been the Damien and I've been the Audrey that got shit on by the Damien. If your name is Audrey, oof, you've got a story to tell. You've got a story. Series of Damiens in your life, Audrey. So I'll be more than happy to be the voice in your ear, in your Bluetooth on your date. What did he say? Did he say he's an entrepreneur and does real estate? Leave. What? You can't go back to his place because of construction? Just leave. Leave now. Hot Cheetos are coming. It's not going to be. Just don't do it. I can help both sex. I can help everybody. I really can. If we can make this an app, maybe not an app. Maybe it has to really be me like listening. And you make appointments. Like, I can go out with you this day because this is the day that Jason is available to be in my ear from the time of our date, regardless of time zone, right? Oh, yes, I understand. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I have a translator app if it's a different language. I'm totally down to do that. So down. Men and women. He said he's dating with intention. Leave. He's a stalker. Leave now. He is projecting things on you. You have no idea. Just leave. Del Solar says, I don't like playing the game. How many times have you met someone? I don't know how old you are or what you are. I just assume everybody is a man until I meet him in real life. I'm like, no shit. No way. Lady Braga says, it's a benefit being old. You can detect shit under 5 minutes. Yeah, no. It's because it's the shit. This is where the problem lies, in my opinion. It is the fact that we think we're detecting the bullshit, and we are quick to bounce. I shouldn't say we. I'm quick to do that. I'll be completely honest. Sometimes I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know if I have the patience. And you could be missing out on great shit. But again, past trauma, it just gets worse as you get old because you get set in your ways. Ugh. God forbid you have children that are somewhat young. Like I have old kids too. Most of my kids, there's just one little one. The old ones are old. They don't care what I do. And they have no real influence on who I date. You know what I mean? But if you have like a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, that's some uncomfortable territory. And you're probably going to be really quick to be like, oh, you know, I don't want to bring you around my kid. You're kind of shitty. You said this thing. And so people are on their best behavior all the time. And you should never treat a relationship like a probationary period at a job. Like, okay, the job says I can't get high because they're going to drug test us randomly for the first 60 days. And then after that, you're just a shitty employee because you're stoned all the time. Or you hate the job. Either way, it's like you could have just been yourself from jump and said, no, I don't want to do this. But it's like, I wouldn't want anyone treating me like a probationary period. I'm like, oh man, fucking Susan is great. It's been 2 months. Oh man, she's awesome. Yeah, Susan is so cool. The other day, she fucking was like, oh, you're doing your show? Like, I know you're hungry. I'll go get you those fucking French toast sticks from Carl's Jr. that you love. And you think, oh man, this Susan is great. 2-month probationary period comes up. Done. Susan, let's make it social media official. Jason Miles is in a relationship with fucking Susan, the chick. And then all your friends congratulate you for no good reason because they don't fucking know Susan's crazy. They don't know the weird sex shit Susan did with you to make you fucking put that on your social media. She did you came so hard with Susan that you went to church and called your mother because you had a religious experience because you didn't know someone could take the whole thing and lick a little bit of the balls at the same time. You didn't know that could happen. And then smile when it's over. You didn't know that was possible. Susan did that 2 weeks in. It was your 2-week anniversary. You were in at that moment. But a 2-month probationary period was up. And it's like, here comes crazy shit. No more French toast sticks. Nope. All the little fucking cute outfits. Oh, Susan, you look so cute before we go to bed. I've never been with someone that fucking does that. Yeah, gone. Done. It's a wrap for you. Probationary period's up. 6 months in, hey, it's our 6-month anniversary. Can you do that thing again where you did that and you Oh no. Never again. That was a one-timer. Yeah. What do you mean? I mean what I meant. Sorry, buddy. It's what it is now. Fuck. Hey, Susan, can we have sex again? Nah. Not maybe Christmas. Maybe Christmas. But nothing. I just had to get past those 60 days, buddy. It's going to be hard for you to break up with me. You shared it on social media. No. It's for at least a year and a half. There you go. Fuck. Damn it. Probationary periods are weird. But then, can you be too honest up front? I think so. I think there's too honest up front. Do you guys agree? Can you be too honest up front? Tell me. Let's get into it here. We're talking about love. Hold on. This song right here is an example of dating someone that's too honest up front. Can you guys see it on the screen? Bam. See this kid? Listen to this.
My story. Grew up in a trailer, got abused. Bruises all over my body. Used to get hit by broken beer bottles. Trailer weeks of alcohol. We survived off ramen noodles and food stamps. Brother.
What? That's too honest. Let's you know, I'm okay with small talk. There is a benefit to small talk, which is no one needs to be this fucking honest. Timothy says I'm too old to hold back. I'm honest up front. Like, how up front are you? Are you just like, I have IBS? And then you're just like, I don't know why you wanted to go to a barbecue joint, but it is what it is, baby.
Almost got killed by 5 different drunk drivers, but he a fighter for real.
That's too honest. NB1 says, I am not honest at the beginning. Damn, do you just straight up lie or you're just not upfront? No, you don't have to be upfront with everything, right? Like maybe if you have type 2 diabetes, you should tell someone why there's needles all over your place. Oh, no, I'm totally not an intravenous drug user. I actually have diabetes. Look at the difference of the needle, and I stab myself right here in the tummy. Oh, okay. That's cool. I get it now. That's to totally be upfront with that, right? That's also going to change the way you go out to eat, right? Makes sense. Oh no, are you okay? Is your blood sugar okay? Right? Tell me that up front. But all this?
I was sexually assaulted by someone I called family. Hate to think that was my reality.
I don't need to know that. Over coffee. Don't need to know that over coffee. That's a down the road discussion, maybe. I think. Am I wrong for thinking that? Lady Braga says the first is how many children do you have? That is a fair question. I don't think that's an invasive question. Well, how many kids do you have? Because you asked me, I'll tell you honestly, I have 4. And then they usually follow up, well, how many babies' mothers? And I was like, well, how many do you want me to have? I have 4 kids and 7 babies' moms. That response could be why I'm single as well. I said, I usually follow it up with, I was married for 10 years. And they go, so many babies' moms? I was like, Jesus. 2. Because one's kind of, from Tinder. But he's probably the coolest. But, people are trying to fill you out. But you can make assumptions off just that. Oh, how many kids do you have? Oh. Right? Because I can ask you, Lady Braga, how many kids do you have? How many babies' daddies do you have?
We coming for you, nigga.
Is 2 the answer for both? I see you wrote 2. And if it is, that's fine. If it is, that's fine. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. Because there's no wrong answer to me. Because you've already answered that there's snacks at your house. Because there's kids there. And good snacks. Because if you watch this show, there's good snacks at your house. I feel very confident. Oh, word. 2 kids, huh? Okay. How old? Ooh, yeah. Lunchable age. All right. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Do they have any allergies to gluten? No, they don't? Oh, awesome. Fruit roll-ups everywhere? Okay, cool. Cool. Cookies? Yes. All right. You're not vegan or anything weird like that, are you? Oh, no, you're not? Oh, there's great snacks at your house. Great snacks at your house. That's what I'm thinking. I'm not worried about who you fucked 15 years ago. I don't give a shit. You probably saw your fair share of dicks. I would prefer if you saw your fair share of dicks. Can't judge you for that. Oh, you're going out with fucking Lady Braga? She's seen a fair share of dicks. Great. Then she knows her way around one. Who's losing in this situation here? It's a win for me. She's got 2 kids. Are they old enough to leave? Are they still young enough to like knock on the door? Are you okay? Is someone hurting you? Do they see their dad on the weekend? That's all I'm concerned about. Oh, they stay with them the whole summer? Oh, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. I've seen these dating shows where these dudes will be, the balloon pop shows will be like, well, the fact that you have multiple babies' fathers, it means apparently that pussy is great because everybody couldn't wait to fucking skeet in there. Why are you judging her? Fuck. She wasn't going to fuck you anyway. Douchebag. Alex Marquez says, it presumes all dicks are wired similarly, presuming the knowledge transfers even after being told otherwise is an orange flag. Look, if she's like the Bubba Gump of dicks, there's all kinds of dicks. Big old dicks, little dicks, medium-sized dicks, girthy dicks. Some dicks that even come on the side. Then she probably fucking knows her way around some dicks. Right? You know what would fucking make my day if she saw mine and was like, oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a new one for me. I haven't seen anyone like that. That's cool. It's weird. Like one of those U bike locks, but we can work with that. Like Gonzo's nose. An umbrella handle. It's weird, but something new. There's nothing wrong. I'm down for that. I can't. If a woman's been around, then she knows what she likes too. Oh, why is that so bad? You should hear some of the shit these dudes say. Well, the way she's dressed. Like, how is she dressed? She's showing off what big fucking ass? Oh, okay. What's wrong with that? Do you like big fucking asses? You're trying to fuck a nun. Just let me know. I'm not. Not at all. If I'm walking around with you, people are going to stare. Oh, that's fucking awesome. Why would I hate that? That's pretty cool. I was in a relationship for 7 years with a woman I did music with who is an attractive woman. People felt very comfortable hitting on her right in front of me. After the show, after she would say things about her husband on stage, as if I wasn't him. There's both rings that we were wearing that are matching. They didn't give a shit. I didn't get mad. Fuck, I get mad for. Damn. I get to fuck that shit. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Timothy says dudes don't care. I don't. This is look. The whole thing for the Saturday free show is that you get the champagne room gratis. So this is a little bit of the insanity that goes on beyond the velvet rope of TIR. Sometimes I'm joined by people like Varn and Jean Bajlan, who are just as bad, if not worse. Shall I remind you that Derek Varn created his own racial slur? Greatest one to this day. Hilarious. Damn. Mike Ray says, fuck YouTube. Are you mad at me, Mike Ray? More like you pube? That's funny. Kind of. But I don't know what I did. Why can't you join the champagne room? Because his work? Tell me why, Alex Marquez. It is one of the most. Lady Braga says, Jason, do you wake up like this? Sometimes I do. I'm not going to lie to you, Lady Braga. I did wake up this morning and it was very quiet. I was reading Michelle's book until the wee hours of the morning. I woke up to read more of it, check my notes. I did have a long conversation with Bert Cooper. I wish it was actually a great conversation we had about authenticity. The sound of the ocean was just beautiful, right? Me and Bert are talking, and then I went and put Steely Dan on because I'm just on the kick and played Asia in its entirety. Started coffee after I exercised, and then started dancing around my house totally naked because I live alone. All the windows are wide open. Having way too much fun. Way too much fun. I lost a little weight, so I'm just like, let the world see. Way too much fun. Yes, I wake up like this. Literally. Sorry. I was this close to getting on the terrace where the neighbors would have been able to see. And I thought, no, not quite. Not there yet. Jason sounds like me when I'm manic. He turns up the music so they'll come to complain. One thing I do hate is when I'm in the shower because I leave all the doors open, right? And you guys never been to my house, but everything is fucking see through here. I think it's part of the design because you live by the ocean. It's like glass, right? There's fucking the whole spine of the thing is glass. The shower is all glass, whatever. And every so often, the Jehovah's Witnesses will come to my house. I have hung out with them a few times. They're, it's a fun conversation. They're good people. I'll make coffee if I got time. Come over, fucking chill. We'll talk some Jesus, I guess. I think you guys are really wrong on the gay thing. Like really, really wrong. Like that's not good. But if I'm in a hurry and all that shit's going, and they're like, hey, is anybody here? I will just walk out like, hey, man, now's not a good time. Oh, didn't know. Yeah. Maybe you heard the water because everything's on. You could no. Okay. Well, now you know. Don't come by. I will come to the door just like this, the way God made me. Delsos, I'm glad I'm not the only one. See? I'm sure I'm not original by doing any of this shit. I'm sure a lot of you guys wake up and do the exact same shit. Ken says we need another movie night. We do. I've been watching the RoboCop movies. They're better than I thought they were. And I think we did watch RoboCop on. I don't know. Jeremy, I think Jeremy actually has a list. So we'll ask Jeremy. He says God is. Remember, if you see me say anything, God is good. Just know the tests are negative, or I got a lump sum of money. And if it's a picture of me smiling saying God is good, I got a lump sum of money. I sold the fuck out. Felt very comfortable about it. The newest RoboCop is really good. If you mean the remake from 2014, I did not like it at all. It hurt my feelings. We can talk about it another time. I'm not going to talk about it now. But also, don't be this kid.
I was young when I lost faith in humanity. Didn't want my brother to become like his father, so I
don't say any of these things on a first date. Don't do it. Don't lie. Don't hold back important information. But not all information is pertinent on the first date. Hey, thank you, Bay Planner. Hopefully you come out to the Bay Area show. I will be talking serious in San Francisco, April 17th. Serious mode. I'm preparing. I'm taking notes. Going to be serious for like 2 hours of seriousness. We're going to take some questions from the audience. Seriousness. The whole time. I'm going to wear a turtleneck. Anyone wearing a turtleneck, any black man, any bald black man wearing a turtleneck is a serious man. If you have hair and wear a turtleneck, guy's not trustworthy. Bald black person with a turtleneck, very trustworthy. He is serious. He's about business. Ben Burgess has been watching apparently, so maybe he saw all the jokes about him smoking cools. Alcohol will never pierce this temple. Oh. Never. No swinging dong talk on the first date. I think it depends. But I get what you're saying. But it could depend, you know. Lady Braga, is that too far for you? Swinging dong talk on the first date? I need to know. Like if you say, what's a normal morning for you? Maybe put on some music. It can vary. I've been listening to a folk singer lately from the 60s who's now passed away. She wrote or performs the song that's the intro of the What We Do in the Shadows TV show. And I dance around the house naked to some of her tracks on that album. Like totally naked. No socks. Is that weird to you? It's okay? Are we still good? How's the fries? Good? I just need to know if that's okay for you. Mike Ray says, would you dance naked with me? It depends, Mike. It all depends. Dusty says that is a lot to take in, Jay. Well, don't ask those types of questions. What's a normal morning like for you? I don't fucking know. I wake up with a feeling of dread, and I'm terrified that I'm never going to be as good as I think I am or I should be. I'm just a big pile of unfulfilled stuff. And then fear fucking makes me work harder than I probably should. Is that what you want to hear? But that's the guy that says too much. You ever put your face in ice water? I have been watching the daily routines to those influencer guys. Those are fucking rad. I am a big fan of those videos, and I hate anyone that shits on them. I wish my life was that simple, where I could just like wake up and work out and take time to eat really healthy and cool, and then go think. They like meditate for a while. I was like, man, that's okay. That's cool. I wish I had that kind of time. Sidler says this shit is so trash. I mean, of course, because you know it's gonna get boring at a certain point. But if I could have like 2 days of doing that, I'd lose my shit. I would lose my shit. All right, guys, let's go. I already missed the fucking French toast stick cutoff at Carl's Jr. He says, where's girl serves him breakfast while he drinks. That's funny on a lot of different levels for me because, first of all, anyone that knows me knows that no one's really allowed in my kitchen like that. Like, it's got to be real deal love for you to be like in the kitchen touching things. So, yeah. It's not going to happen. Like, oh, you made this because you turned the oven on? Oh, can I see your key again? All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining me in this bonus champagne room, if you will. We'll be back Tuesday. don't remember who the guest is. I don't remember. But it is on the calendar over there that you guys can't see. But it's going to be a good week next week. It's some fun shows. Kuba's coming back next week. That's always fun. I think Gene might be coming back next week. He's always a barrel of laughs. So. I'm reading you guys' comments. Do I eat handfuls of raisins? Oh my God. For all the people that make raisin jokes about me, I will say this in closing. They just opened a new 7-Eleven 3 blocks down from the other 7-Eleven, but it's on a different side of the road. It either goes north or south, right? So now the new 7-Eleven's on the south side of the road, whereas the other was on the north side of the road. And I live south. Downtown Rosarito is north. So coming back from downtown Rosarito, I said, I'm going to stop in the new 7-Eleven because what the fuck is in 7-Eleven that makes it so special? There's this other Mexican chain that's very similar to 7-Eleven where you can pay all your bills called Oxxo. So I go in the new 7-Eleven, and the first thing I see is cherry Dr. Pepper. Cherry Dr. Pepper is hard to find here. It's not everywhere. It's like, oh shit, cherry Dr. Pepper. I fucking love cherry Dr. Pepper, and I'm limiting myself to like 12 sodas a year. So I was going to get my laundry, and I was like, you know what? I'll get cherry Dr. Pepper for the laundry ladies. This is a very thankless job. This woman fucking, they do, oh, the shit those women probably see. Oh, it's a nightmare. Anyway, cherry Dr. Pepper. At the counter, they had these little 7-Eleven candies. You guys know what I'm talking about because all 7-Elevens do this. They have their own brand of shit. And they had at the counter chocolate covered raisins. I lost my shit. Little bag of chocolate covered raisins. So, do I grab handfuls of raisins? No. But did I grab chocolate raisins? Yes. I did. So that is my vice. Loose women, chocolate covered raisins, and cherry Dr. Pepper. Not necessarily in that order. Thank you guys. Have a good one. I'm out.